everybody, it's Mel. Thank you for joining me today for my March reading wrap-up. So yes, today I'm going to talk to you about all the books that I read in the month of March. Before I do talk about that or anything else, I just want to let you know two things. First of all, apologies if the lighting changes throughout the video. It's one of those days where it's overcast but the clouds are moving across the sun, so sometimes it gets brighter. And also the light in this room is on a motion sensor, so it might turn itself off at some point. We'll hopefully avoid that though. Anyway, the other thing I want to let you know is it's just totally left my head. Oh, that's right. Anyone that I talked about in this video will be linked down below so you can go and check them out. So yes, in the month of March, I run a readathon every single March that is based on my personal TBR game that I play every other month. And in March, I invite you all to join me, and it's Roll of Reads. This is something that I do to celebrate my birthday because obviously my birthday is in March. So that is what I did in the month of March. I didn't necessarily read all of the books that I ended up choosing for that TBR. If you'd like to check out that TBR and see what I was supposed to read, then the link to that is in the description below. So please go ahead and check that out as well. I will also leave the playlist for all of the TBR games for this year so that you can check that out if you're interested. But anyway, I was playing Roll of Reads with a bunch of lovely people. We had a great time. It was really, really fun. But yeah, like I said, I swapped a few things out and read some stuff that maybe wasn't on the TBR at all. But that's okay. That's okay. I did do a bit of reading and it was fun. And that's the main thing. So I'm going to go through my stats first and then I'll talk about the books in more detail. So in the month of March, I read 5.5 books. And the reason why I say 5.5 books is because I did have one book that I finished that I had been working on for a little while. So I didn't fully read that book throughout the entire month. My average rating for these books was 4.21, so pretty high average rating, which I'm very, very happy about. And the pages that I read were 1,861. Now, I did read one audiobook, but I haven't distinguished between pages read and hours listened to. I just added up how many pages were in the book that I listened to, if that makes sense. But yes, I did listen to one audiobook. I read one ebook and I read 4 books physically. The genres that I read in the month of March were mystery, fantasy / magical realism, and adventure / manga, which obviously is more of a format than a genre, but anyway. And the best book that I read in the month of March, just for a little sneak preview, spoiler, was The Spell Shop. Alright, so I'm looking down at my my reading journal if that's not clear. I'm going to turn to the books that I did read, the reviews, and I can let you know what I thought of everything. So I'll just also say that I'm going to do this in the order that I read them or the order that I finished them and put them into the reading journal rather than any kind of like chronological specifically for started, or certainly it won't be in star rating, so I hope that's okay. So the first book that I finished in the month of March was Trixie Belden and the Midnight Marauder. This is a middle grade mystery book. Used to be my favourite series when I was about 10 or 11. I got the prompt to read a book that was published in the 1980s, and this one was published in 1980, so it counts, just. But yeah, it was really fun to revisit a series or a book from a series that I really enjoyed when I was a kid. I still think that it holds up. It definitely wasn't aimed at me, but nonetheless I still gave it a 4.7, which I rounded up to 4 stars because I did really, really enjoy it. It's a little bit of a nostalgic read for me, which probably is why it was quite a high rating, because like I said, it wasn't written with me in mind, but I do, like I said, think that it holds up. So the series, we follow Trixie Belden, who is, I think, 13 or 14, and a bunch of her friends / siblings who are in this club called the Bob Whites of the Glen. The idea behind the Bob Whites is that they help out with various community things that need helping out with, and one of the things that they do as part of that, it's mostly about Trixie and the fact that she thinks of herself as quite the detective. That's something she wants to do when she grows up as an adult with her friend, her best friend Honey Wheeler, but she thinks of herself already as a detective. She's very good at solving puzzles and finding clues and that sort of thing. She does solve quite a few mysteries. Her and her friends and her siblings, like I said in the Bob Whites, they solve a bunch of different mysteries, and each book is a different kind of mystery of the week. So this was about someone who's basically committing vandalism and break and enter in their town, and her brother gets accused of the crime, and so Trixie and her friends, and including the brother, are trying to figure out what actually happened. And yeah, I did enjoy myself. Like I said, a bit of a nostalgic read, which probably accounts for the quite high rating, but I still think it's really good. I still really thought it was well written, the characters are great, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, 4 stars for that one. The next book that I read was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This was my favourite book of the month. I'm using the Peach scale, which is something that Erin Smith created. I will link her channel below, and it is, yeah, it's a way of rating things. So it's Peach, so P for plot, E for enjoyment, A for artistry, so like how well was it written, C for characters, and H for kind of hype, I guess, which I'm using to be like how memorable was it, how much did I get the hype for it, how amazing were the vibes, that sort of thing. So I gave it a 4.98 for the Peach scale, but I've rounded that up to 5 stars. This book is a cozy fantasy, and we follow our main character Keela or Kyla and her sentient spider plant Kaz, and they work in the library in the capital of this empire. There is a rebellion and their library is under attack, so Keela and her spider plant, they take a bunch of books and they travel out to where Keela is originally from, her small island town out in the far reaches of the empire, and they go to her parents' old place, and it's very run down. No one's lived there for years and years and years, and she moves in there, and she starts to get to know the people in the town. She sets up a spell shop, but it's actually it's a jam shop, which is a front for a spell shop, because spells aren't necessarily, well, spells are something that's supposed to be just the kind of nobles and the aristocracy that use, and not the common folk. But because she has she has saved a bunch of these books from the library, which are spell books, she's starting to use them to help the area and the people, but she doesn't want to be discovered, and so she pretends that it's a jam shop. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was so much fun. I thought it was really well written. I really love the characters. There's a romance in there which I thought was really well done. It was slow burn and closed door, but it was just really sweet and really, like I said, really fun. There were all sorts of different magical animals and magical creatures and plants and different things. Yeah, it was just a really great fun time. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, well written, really great characters, really well paced, and just a really cozy fun time. Highly, highly recommend. Absolutely loved it. Definitely will be searching out some other books by Sarah Beth Durst. I've heard great things about her as an author in general, so I am excited to look into some more of her works. The next book that I read was The List of Suspicious Things by Jenny Godfrey. I read this for a vlog that I'm working on currently, and I really, really enjoyed it. It wasn't on my TBR, it wasn't on my list of things that I necessarily wanted to get to, but it came in at the library, so I read it. I gave it a 4.66 in the Peach scale, which works out to be, well, 4.5 stars basically. And yeah, like I said, I really, really enjoyed it. So this is set in the 70s, late 70s, during the Thatcher administration in Yorkshire in the UK, and during the time when the Yorkshire Ripper was active. So the Yorkshire Ripper was a serial killer, like I said, in that time period, who was active in Yorkshire, obviously, as the name suggests, and it was a really horrific time for the people who lived in that area. Everyone was frightened, as you'd imagine. No one knew what was going on. People were being attacked. It was pretty horrible. So this is set in that time period, and we follow this young teenager. I think she's like 13 or 14, maybe even younger, maybe more like 11 or 12. Miv, and she and her friend are very influenced by the stories of the Yorkshire Ripper, and Miv's parents are thinking of moving, and Miv thinks part of the reason is because of the Yorkshire Ripper. She doesn't want to move, so her and her friend decide to create this list of suspicious things, and they start writing things down in their local area that they think is suspicious because they want to try and help find the Yorkshire Ripper so that Miv will not have to move. And while they're doing this, they meet new people, they find out things about themselves, about the people in their area, and about their families and things like that. There's a lot more going on. It's very deep, actually, even though it sounds like it's a fairly straightforward kind of mystery story. It's actually more about Miv and her family and her circumstances, and I really, really enjoyed it, as the fact that I gave it a 4.66 would suggest. Yeah, I thought it was really well written. I thought that it was just really well done. The way that it, like I said, it follows the beat of like a mystery, but it's a lot more to it and a lot more about Miv and her family and her internal life and in her mental health and her struggles, and particularly in that time period when it was like, particularly in Britain, something you don't talk about mental health, you don't acknowledge mental health, problems with mental health, and it makes it very hard for Miv and her family, but particularly for Miv, to deal with that when it's affecting their family. And I thought that was really well done, and to follow this young girl and to see how she's trying to come to terms with what's going on, but she doesn't have a framework to do it because no one talks about it, and she doesn't understand some of the things that are alluded to in the way, things are alluded to, things are kind of swept under the carpet, things are, euphemisms, and she doesn't understand all that, and so it's her trying to navigate all those things. And yeah, I thought it was beautifully done. I thought it was really, really well written, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend. A lot of tough topics, so when I say thoroughly enjoyed it, I wouldn't necessarily say, like, be prepared to be emotionally affected, basically. But yeah, that was the list of suspicious things. The next book that I finished was Wayward by Amelia Hart. I gave this one a 4.86, so it very nearly was, it certainly is vying for top place along with The Spell Shop. And yeah, 4.86, which is, again, I've rounded up to 5 stars. So on Goodreads. So this one is a gothic kind of mystery, I guess, gothic story, and we follow 3 different generations of this family, and there are secrets within the family that have been hidden, and it's about how they've affected the current people and what else might be going on. And yeah, it's, the mistakes or the things that have happened in the past affect the current. There's a lot of conversation around sexism, around the patriarchy, around abuse of women, and around abuse within the family home. So definitely trigger warnings for the book, but I really thought it was really, really well done. The trope of having multiple generations and secrets that are affecting future generations and that sort of thing, really, I love that. I think that's it's one of my favourite tropes. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one, highly recommend. And yeah, I just thought it was incredibly well written. I thought the characters were really well done. I thought it was weaved together really well. I thought the way that we learn about the different stories and the way that we learn about the different circumstances that have affected future generations and what's then therefore going on in those other women's lives was incredibly well done. So I would highly recommend. The next book that I read, which was the one that I had started previously and I finished in the month of March, was Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. Yes. So this one is the second book in a duology, which the first book is Divine Rivals. So it's Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, and yeah, Ruthless Vows in the second book, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I gave it a 3.3, which I rounded up to 3.5 stars. So not as strong as the other books that I have been talking about, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was really fun. So it is a historical fantasy. We follow 2 main characters. We follow Iris, Winnow, and Roman Kit, and it's a love story between the 2 of them, but it's set in this war between these 2 in this period of war between these two gods. All of the people in this area, in this world, are on either side and they're fighting this war for the gods. Yeah, and this was the conclusion to the story. It's a fantasy, but it mirrors a lot of things from, like, it's taken a lot of inspiration from First World War England in that period and that experience. So that's why I would say it's historical fantasy. And yeah, I loved it. I thought it was really great. I really enjoyed it. 3.5 stars. But yeah, would recommend. And then the final book that I read that I want to talk about is my first ever manga, my proper first ever manga where you read it the opposite way that English speakers read, and that was One Piece, the first volume, which I don't recall what that specifically is called, by Hiro Oda. I apologise, I have probably said that name very wrong and I apologise. So this is a very big ongoing manga series and I have only read the first book. Not sure whether I'll continue with it, although I did give it 3.5 stars. So 2.5 on Peach and 3.5 stars. So, you know, I may at some point, but I'm not rushing out to continue with it. But yeah, it was fun. I had a good time with it. It is a story about a kid called, I can't remember his first name, but Luffy is what everyone calls him, his surname. And when he's a child, he really idolizes these pirates and he wants to be a pirate when he grows up. Pirates have made his hometown into like their base of operations, and he wants to he wants to be a pirate when he grows up, and he sort of hangs out with these pirates and he, what am I trying to say? He finds their treasure, and which is a seed from a rubber tree, and he eats it and he becomes made of rubber, which basically means he can't be killed because bullets bounce off him. He's he fights really well because he can, you know, extend his arm and all sorts of things like that. And then he grows up into, I think he's like 15 or 16, and he decides he wants to start his pirate ship. He's captain and he meets this other kid who has been thrown off of a pirate ship. He was a cabin boy, and they decide to team up and go recruiting. And yeah, it's about an adventure, trying to find other pirates. It was fun, like I said. I thought it was interesting. I definitely see the appeal and why people like it. Like I said, I didn't love it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. It's definitely well out of my comfort zone. Not the kind of book that I would read anyway, but also it's my first manga, so I've never read a manga. I've watched a fair bit of anime, but never read any manga. I've never watched One Piece. Yeah, I definitely see where people enjoy it, but it's just, I mean, it's not my thing because I enjoyed it, but it's just not really my thing, and it hasn't won me over the way it has other people, but that's okay. I still had a good time, and yeah, thought it was fun. So that's my wrap up for the month of March. Those are all the books that I read and what I thought of them. Yeah, so that's it for from me today. Let me know in the comments below what books you read in the month of March. What was your favourite book that you read in the month of March? And yeah, anything else that you would like to let me know, please do so in the comments below. If you'd like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me some kind of pretty plant emoji, because we have a couple of covers that are beautiful covers with lots of plants on them, which are for my two favourite books of the month, so I feel like that's quite fitting. And I would normally be holding up a bunch of books that I read for my thumbnail, which I would then go through quickly, but I do not, as you know, have them on hand. So instead I will hold up my journal and do the thumbnail. But anyway, that's from me today. So yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for joining me, and I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.